remains to be seen. Another issue we'd like to discuss here is matters education, and we do know that education in this country is a basic right for every Kenyan, and the government of Jubilee had promised that there's going to be 100% transition for those who are moving from primary to secondary to university, but that has not gone down very well. But before we even discuss it, let's listen into what some of the leaders in the education sectors had to say.
I want to start by saying that under my watch, no child will be denied ability to take the examinations. That's point number one.
All right, and that is what Professor Magoha had to say. Let me start with you, Ambrose Weda. The government, of course, had promised this, but the question again remains the structures that have been put in place and whether they're there to hold and keep that promise true.
I think it is a good, very good, lofty idea. I think as a polity, it is good that there should be almost 100% transition, but that also renders useless examinations. So that we should say from class 1 to form 4, you go straight. Let's not waste money, resources, time to do examinations, which then say that you are in class 8, but you are not been matured enough to be in form 1. Then now we use policy or fiat to take people to form 1. That is inimical of the very, very foundations of education in the world. So there, I think it is a good policy, but it was not thought out. There was an element of politics, and there was an element of gerrymandering and all these things. Looking at the way it was started, the first major problem is lack of teachers. Most schools now, 50 or 60% of teachers are employed by the board. I am in a school, I chair the board of Nyakaji Girls High School. We have over 2,000 girls. We are at 12 times 4 stream school. Okay? We do not have money for infrastructure. The fees is very little. Parents are not allowed to contribute. So what do? You make do things. But that, we could do even Mabati here, Mabati classrooms. I am a believer that we can even study under trees. The problem is they are not of these teachers employed by the BOM. I would urge under Magoha and the government, the president, that these teachers employed by the BOM, let schools get a small vote to pay these teachers on contract. Let them also employ teachers on contract before they finish with the NAT and so on. Teachers, there's a huge shortage. We have 30% of the teachers required nationally. That defeats the very essence of education. Number 2 is the question of practical subjects. It requires money. To do practical, those chemicals, you buy them. You don't pray over them and they appear. And to buy them, you have to have money. That money either you get from fees or you get from government. You don't get that. So what do? We end up giving 1 or 2 practicals to the exams. That's why so many students are failing in biology. That's why so many students are failing in chemistry. And otherwise, everybody is saying, CRE, how Jesus Christ was born, that he died, he is at the right hand of the Father. Eventually, when you come into the market, there are no jobs. But if you look at the technical ones, the science-based, medicine, whatever, physics, chemistry, the jobs are there, local and national, but we don't train our children there. Why? Because there are no facilities to do so. So it is a good policy, but let's back it with the instruments that are required to ensure that we have this. That is money for practical teachers. We can compromise in the classroom. I am a believer in big schools. We have a school of 5,000 students, 3 deputies, 1 principal, director, huge investments, than having so many Keperu schools all over. They are all over.
All right.
Yes, and no teacher, no gate, nothing, and say 100% transition. No.
It's not going to work. Senator, your thoughts? And again, speaking to the structures that government has put in place, it's one thing to make a promise, which politicians seem to do very well, and say that 100% transition is going to happen. When we look at the work on the ground, the structures that are in place, then we are left wondering whether really that is something that they mean to do, or it's just a political statement that is meant to gain favor.
The truth is, Jubilee government has achieved in this area. I say that because it has increased capitation for the money that goes to public, primary school and also secondary school, in particular secondary school. I'll give you a good example when it comes to day school, in secondary school. For a long time, on average, a parent used to pay about 20,000 or 25,000 per annum to ensure the child goes to school. Government, led by His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, has been able to collapse that amount from about 25,000 or 30,000 in day school. Now it is about 9,000, which is purely about food. You pay 3,000 first term, second term 3,000, and that term 3,000 just for food. To me, that's something that we need to celebrate. Number two, because of that, it has caused what is called the transition rate from primary to secondary school to shoot up. We are now approaching about 90% transition rate on average in the entire country, which again is also a very positive thing. I also want to concur with my brother. We better first ensure there is that huge transition and people study under the tree than the other way around. That is, you don't transit children saying that you must first have infrastructure. We address those problems later. I also want to agree with him, the whole idea. We need to empower our BOMs more. We need to send more money. And I agree with his idea of probably creating a vote where the board can decide maybe to hire the so-called BOM. But the problem has been the unions. Recall, it's the union that has been opposing that idea. In other jurisdictions, incidentally, the people who employ teachers, it's not one central entity called TSC. It's usually the board. And to me, that makes some sense because the board ensures, it is the board that knows the local problems. When you're in Nairobi here, you cannot know the staffing ratios. You cannot know the problems at the ground. It's the whole idea of central planning, which Kenyans is moving away from with the whole idea of devolution. So I would agree with his idea that we need to send more money to the BOMs so that they can be able to address those shortfalls per school. However, I disagree with him, kindly, with his idea that probably we can consider scrapping KCPE now that there is 100% transition policy. I say that because, of course, KCPE for now, it should not be used as a sieve, as a blockade for the transition. It can be used as something to measure the progress. Yes, it is going to see your weakness when it comes to this level, your strength, so that when you go to the secondary school, it can be used as a yardstick to see whether there is what is called value addition. I'm happy these days NAC has started ranking something they are calling value addition. That is, how much did you get in KCPE? What marks did you get in KCPE? What marks have you got in KCSE? What is the comparison? That way they can be able to range whether the school you have been has been able to add some value to it. Otherwise, for me, for a long time, out of 100% money that has been sent to the Ministry of Education, 90% of that money used to go to pay salaries, used to pay what is called recurrent expenditure. The government has made an effort now to move away from over-concentrating in recurrent expenditure and increasing the budget for capital investment. And for me, that is the direction the government should move into. So that is, invest more in, for instance, inspections, because currently we don't have a strong inspectorate department. Invest more in giving board money to employ teachers on contract. It's scandalous when you have young graduates who don't have jobs, whereas there's a huge demand. Invest more in infrastructure. CDF, by the way, does a good job. It needs to be celebrated. And probably I am a champion of increasing the capitation of CDF. It can do some of those interventions at the local level. So for me, that is the direction the government should
that we need to take. Yeah,
comment. I think, Senator, you need to get this. Don't be stuck in the old inspection where some inspector used to come with picky and then he terrorizes people in schools. Now they have what is called quality assurance. It is so effective, so effective. They work so well that the schools are inspected and quality assured on a daily basis, daily. Even if students make noise the whole day in a class, you will hear the quality assurance people saying, yesterday your school was 1, 2, 3, and you report to them on a daily basis. So please, when you go to Parliament, tell them that. On the question of NAT, about teachers and so on, I think government is just not serious on this. Why do I say so? You go around things, we are employing those teachers. I think in Nyakachigas we have over 40 of them. We are paying. What we are saying is, as you settle your disputes with the NAP, why can't you give us money to pay these people? Just give us, and we don't pay much. We are not lavish, we are not very rich. We are paying about 20,000. And these are good teachers, selected well. They teach and students pass. Not the ones employed by TSC. Some of them drink and you can't sack them and you can't ask them and you can't do anything. So they just send us. If government was to give us in Nyakachigas about 6 million in a year, we will go to on our knees and say, hallelujah.
So then
I support the policy.
So then are you saying whether what you need is just money?
We need money specifically to pay teachers. And then we need money to buy practical materials. Once we do that,
then
I'm telling you, bring the children, we'll put them under a tree and teach them, and they'll pass.
Senator?
No, the reason I was saying that is because that idea has always been planned by the government, that you support BOMs to employ teachers on contract. But unions have been vehemently opposed to it. For me, when I compare both arguments...
The unions have been opposed to employment of temporary teachers.
There's
teachers
no
under
difference.
contract.
There's
Now
no
here,
difference.
you give the school, you say this one is...
What vote?
Now they are giving us vote. They are giving us money that goes to employing subordinate staff. You understand? There are monies for that, which they also send from. They tell you this is for support staff, this is for this. That's why they say just increase it a bit, then say, in case you have other areas like teaching, please employ. Then we give them according to the needs of the school.
Yes, I
these are things we sit down
idea.
on the table
I
and we refine the policy, and we get around this trade unionism that is killing our children. It's killing these children.
No, it is true.
Yes.
Yes, I agree that he is making a very strong case in regard to supporting schools along that line. I know in UK, it is them, him as the chair, who has the ultimate authority, who is going to be employed by a school to serve students, which, by the way, for me, it makes all the sense. You know the terrain, you know the needs in your school, you know who is competent, and if at all that person doesn't perform, you can fire him at that local level. For me, I agree, you need to be empowered. On that issue, I am with you.
All right, and we'll need to wind up now because of time. I'll take your closing comments, and I'll start with you, Ambrose Weda. Is there a silver bullet that can deal with education? Is it just money? Is it just structures? Because at the end of the day, it's not just education we're looking at, but quality education.
I think if resources are put, we are lucky as a country. We have very good teachers, very good. The principals are very good. Most of them hardworking. The war, you see, the NAT and the other ones, they are doing a fine job. What is missing is the underfunding, just the money directed in specific areas, and having a serious minister like that and then policy, it will work. Believe you me, it's been working, it works. As long as we also seal the exam stealing mechanisms, it works very well.
It works.
Yeah.
Senator Irungu Kangata, your closing comments.
Well, I'm a strong believer in ranking schools. I do not know why the government stopped ranking schools. I recall we did an amendment to the NEC Act to compel government to revert back to ranking. The ministry is supposed to bring some regulations to parliament so that probably they set out an objective criteria of doing that ranking. We are still waiting for those.
What advantage does ranking have other than just pressurize children?
No.
And the schools?
For me, it is about competition. Like now you are here as an entity. I'm sure you're competing with another media house. You must agree with the concept of competition. Without competition, society does not grow. So without competition, you become lethargic. You become lethargic. What you do now, the only point I agree a little bit,
yes.
You must compare apples with apples, not apples with oranges.
ask
So therefore, don't compare Alliance with, let's say,
some school in
some
Turkana or
school.
somewhere where
But you can come with an objective criteria of saying, okay, these are day schools, compare them. These are boarding school, compare them. But the idea of competing, that you now hide in, remember, by the way, look here, for instance, let me give you a good example. I'm a member of parliament.
Yes.
I want to do some interventions,
Yes.
either to motivate teachers, to do what? How can I do that without knowing which school is doing how the school is performing? How can you know?
How do you rank a school that presents 40 candidates and another one presenting 700? You rank a school that gets students of 400 marks and above with that one who gets 100 marks because it's 100% transition. Then you get a school which has all the best teachers because it is in town as a big school. You compare it with one in Turkana where they are struggling with food. Ranking kills people. Let's put resources, let's put standards.